Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Constructive Criticism. I'm your host, Spencer, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Michael.
What's up? Sorry, I was not expecting that.
Oh, did I say your name first and you didn't like that?
Well, I was just like trying to prepare what I was going to say, you know, like it could be like, hey, how's it going? Or what's up? Or, I don't know, something else new and exciting. And then I just would say what's up, I think. Or maybe how's it going? I actually don't know what I said.
We're also joined by Casey.
Hey, what's good?
So you guys are sick.
Yeah.
Did Casey get you sick, Michael?
I mean, I'd say like more people I know are sick right now than aren't sick right now. So probably not.
There's no way to blame somebody.
Yeah, well, so here's what we know, though, for sure, is that Danny was complaining about being sick and couldn't come for the meeting. And I haven't really seen him in a while, but I think it's still safe to assume he got us sick.
Okay.
Just like you ruined that other podcast.
What?
The one with the sound issues. DJ Cathro just remixed it. And
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
That guy, man.
Oh, man, this is the worst intro ever.
You know who won't get you sick?
No, so before we get into that, I just want to say this podcast is brought to you by Nationwide. Nationwide is on your side. No, not really, but it is brought to you by Oasis Games. You can check them out at oasisgames.com to get 15% off your first order.
You didn't even go with but you know who is on your side?
Yeah, Oasis Games is on your side and won't get you sick.
Yeah, that's true.
And if they talk to you, they might remember what they said.
So, today, somebody tweeted out a screenshot of Skip Bayless liking his own live feed.
Oh, I saw that.
and then comment on it?
And then he
Like,
commented
great
on it.
show, Skip.
You're like, Skip, you're the man, love the new show on FS1. He forgot to log into a different account before he did it.
I mean, I like to think that he just did that intentionally because he just actually does not care one iota.
But it perfectly encapsulates Skip Bayless into, like, the kind of person he is.
Yeah. But it also, raises the question of, how many TVs does Skip Bayless own? Because the ratings have to come from somewhere. And I think we're finally figuring it out.
The thing is I was like, one thing I was like...
His 37 million dummy Facebook accounts.
Is this something that I could do to bolster my podcast? Like, just go create...
Get Skip Bayless to like it? Maybe.
Yeah. If you can get Skip Bayless to comment, I mean, you might get a lot of, hate listens.
Yeah. Those are really powerful, too.
Alternatively, I can just use my personal Facebook to, comment on the podcast and talk about how good I am.
Man, this podcast is great. Michael's
Especially thanks to
smart.
Michael, yeah.
No, but
way to go,
Games,
Michael. You're the man.
Oasis Games is not gonna, create a bunch of fake accounts to get business. They're actually great, and you should.
I feel like that doesn't work as well with buying things specifically.
You would think that, but didn't Wells Fargo get in a lot of trouble this year
Well,
for creating a bunch of fake accounts?
No, because they were charging fees on them and stuff.
It was like signing people up for accounts they didn't want.
This would be more like sending random people from the phone book cards in the mail and then billing them for them, which Oasis Games will also not do.
Anymore.
Fool me once, shame on me. Oh man, this is so derailed. This is what happens when people are sick. No, but Oasis really is the best place to buy Magic cards. You really should check them out. It's they also don't love Skip Bayless there. I don't think that half the people know who he is. So that's a definite benefit.
I mean, I work there and I really don't like Skip Bayless, and I don't know that anyone else has a strong opinion on Skip Bayless. So I would say collectively we don't like Skip Bayless.
No, Dave loves Skip Bayless.
That can't possibly be true.
I can't imagine Dave knowing who Skip Bayless is. That would be really weird to me, actually.
All right.
It's probably true.
This podcast is also brought to you by you guys, the listeners. You can go to patreon.com/ccmtg. There's new rewards posted. You don't get to see all the rewards because of the way that it's set up, but we do have a set amount that when we get there, we will build a robot dinosaur for Casey and Michael's Right at Battle. To be fair, I did only say Casey originally during the meeting, and Michael got real upset. He's like, whoa. I also want to ride a
If
dinosaur.
Casey gets a dinosaur, I get one too. That's not fair. I also I was doing Christmas shopping today, and
And you bought a robot dinosaur?
No, but speaking of this, I was like looking at things, and then I got on Amazon, and I somehow started looking at drones, and I very nearly snap bought a $500 drone racing setup, and then was gonna
for what?
no, I was just gonna buy one for me and buy one for my brother and buy one for my dad and just form a
drone
drone racing league. It was gonna be great. And then I looked at my checking account and was like, I probably shouldn't, spend $1,500 on drones. But I think this is a great idea.
You can donate anything you see fit, starting at $1. Everything is appreciated. It really means the world to us when somebody feels like the things that we're saying is worth something to them. So if you get the kind of value out of this that you get out of maybe Netflix or some other service that you pay for, think about donating that money this way. So.
Oh. Constructive criticism and chill is a common phrase.
It will be now because you said it on the podcast. Every week I get tweets that are like something was said like something's a character flaw now, or it's just you can't say things otherwise you're just stuck making grilled cheese for the rest of your life. Hashtag always improving is the point of this podcast. Every week on the show we want to talk about things that are going to make you better, and really want to focus on what we've done to try and improve. We believe if you're not getting better, you're getting worse, and we always want to be doing what we can to be always improving. So for me, I played a lot of Magic this week. I think that my entire week was sucked up into two things. I don't know where it went. That might be part of being a dad. Actually don't remember most this week, but I got to rank 14 on Hearthstone from 24 or something, so maybe that's where it went, which shouldn't take that long. It only took me a day.
Yeah, I mean that's 30 more wins than losses, so depending on your win percentage.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I played some Hearthstone, but I did get to play a lot of Magic. Trying to focus on some of the simpler stuff, tapping my lands correctly again. Checking my hand before letting spells resolve, things like that. And, I think that it's always nice to kind of take a step back and be like, all right, where am I at fundamentally right now? Is this something that I'm letting slip to try and focus on bigger stuff when I should just never let that slip? And that's something that I tried to focus on this week. So, Casey, what have you done this week to improve at Magic or life in general?
Just kind of been really diving back into Legacy, because it's been a while since I've really played it, other than just, for something to do. So trying to get really familiar with what people are doing in the format, what to be prepared for this Grand Prix, and, not just taking my Legacy experience for granted, trying to make sure that I'm up to date.
Sure. Michael, what about you? What have you done to try and improve at Magic this week?
I've been playing a lot of Legacy too, also just trying to get set on something for Louisville. I've played a few different decks at this point, and I'm mostly happy with where I'm at. My last few leagues have gone really well.
Good.
I
was kind of worried because, you wanted to do an entire show based upon your leagues, and that didn't sound like a great show.
I mean, I was joking, but,
You seem like you were pretty prepped for it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's the thing about doing shows. That's the thing about doing shows based only on something I already did. It's it's pretty easy. Right? I mean, if you just want a quick show, you can just, I don't know.
So what have you been playing in the leagues, and how is this different than maybe other leagues that you've played in the past?
Okay, so when I played in the past, I think first of all, I haven't played a lot of Legacy for a while, and I think last time I was playing very much Legacy, I just wasn't very good at Magic in general.
Sure.
So that's some of it. I think I have better resources to lean on now with friends who have played a good amount of Legacy, so learning to take advantage of those, of just the information that's available to me. I started with Grixis Delver because I asked a couple of players who were very good at it, and they said that's where they thought I should start. I liked it okay, but didn't love it, so I was then playing a little Sneak and Show, and then playing Sneak and Show with Omniscience, and have mostly been really happy with that. I think it's very powerful. You still get to play Force of Will.
So you guys both are kind of on Sneak and Show right now. I got to play some of that this week after you shared your list with me, Casey. And I feel like this deck is way more one-dimensional than it was before. What changed in it? Is it just playing more cantrips?
Uh,
Did it not used to play probe or something?
no, there's no. It's basically the same. The list that I gave you has a little bit more. I think it has one or two more preordains than people usually played back then, and then it has like spell piercers instead of dazes, but it's still the same basic deck. What do you mean when you say one-dimensional?
So
I got the magic in me. Every time I touch that deck, it turns into gold. Everybody knows I've got the magic in me. When I hit the floor, the spikes come snapping at me. Now everybody wants some presto magic, 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 magic. Spencer Howland, ladies and gentlemen.
hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Constructive Criticism. I'm your host, Spencer, and I'm joined by my co-host, Michael.
What's up? Sorry, I was not expecting that.
Oh, did I say your name first and you didn't like that?
Well, I was just like trying to prepare what I was gonna say. You know, like it could be like, "Hey, how's it going?" or "What's up?" or I don't know, something else new and exciting, and then I just would say, "What's up?" I think, or maybe "How's it going?" I actually don't know what I said.
The
We're
world
also
may never know.
We're also joined by Casey.
Hey, what's good?
So you guys are sick.
Yeah.
Did Casey get you sick, Michael?
I mean, I'd say like more people I know are sick right now than aren't sick right now, so probably not.
There's
That's
no way to
fine.
blame somebody.
Yeah, well, so here's what we know, though, for sure, is that Danny was complaining about being sick and couldn't come for the meeting. And I haven't really seen him in a while, but I think it's still safe to assume he got us sick.
Okay.
Just like you ruined that other podcast,
What?
the one with the sound issues. DJ Cathro just remixed it, and
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
That guy, man.
Oh man, this is the worst intro ever.
you know who won't get you sick?
Lazy Games. No, so before we get into that, I just want to say this podcast is brought to you by Nationwide. Nationwide is on your side. No, not really, but it is brought to you by Oasis Games. You can check them out at oasiSgamesSLC.com and get 15% off your first order.
You didn't even go with like a, but you know who is on your side?
Yeah, Oasis Games is on your side and won't get you sick.
Yeah, that's true.
And if they talk to you, they might remember what they said.
So, today, somebody tweeted out a screenshot of Skip Bayless liking his own live feed.
Oh, I saw that.
And
then-
comment on it.
And then he
like-
commented
Great
on it.
show, Skip.
You're like, Skip, you're the man, love the new show on FS1. He forgot to log into a different account before he did it.
I mean, I like to think that he just did that intentionally because he just actually does not care one iota.
But it perfectly encapsulates Skip Bayless into, like, the kind of person he is.
But it also like raises the question of how many TVs does Skip Bayless own? Because the ratings have to come from somewhere. And I think we're finally figuring it out.
The thing is I was like, one thing I was like,
His 37 million dummy Facebook
is
accounts.
this something that I could do to bolster my podcast? Like, just go
Get
create.
Skip Bayless to like it? Maybe.
yeah. If you can get Skip Bayless to comment, I mean, you might get a lot of like hate listens.
Yeah. Those are really powerful, too.
Alternatively, I can just use my personal Facebook to, comment on the podcast and talk about how
Man,
good
this
I am.
podcast is great. Michael's
Especially
so
thanks to
smart.
Michael. Yeah.
No, but
Way to
Oasis
go,
Games,
Michael. You're the
Oasis
man.
Games is not gonna, create a bunch of fake accounts to get business. They're actually great, and you should.
I feel like that doesn't work as well with buying things specifically.
You would think that, but didn't Wells Fargo get like in a lot of trouble this year
Well,
for creating a bunch of fake accounts?
No, because they were like charging fees on them and stuff.
It was like signing people up for accounts they didn't want.
This would be more like sending random people from the phone book cards in the mail and then billing them for them, which Oasis Games will also not do.
Fun
anymore.
Fool me once, shame on me. Oh man, this is so derailed. This is what happens when people are sick. No, but Oasis really is like the best place to buy Magic cards. You really should check them out. It's they also don't love Skip Bayless there. I don't think that half the people know who he is. So that's a definite benefit.
I mean, I work there and I really don't like Skip Bayless, and I don't know that anyone else has a strong opinion on Skip Bayless. So I would say collectively we don't like Skip Bayless.
No, Dave loves Skip Bayless.
That can't possibly be true.
I can't imagine Dave knowing who Skip Bayless is. That would be like really weird to me, actually.
All right.
It's probably true.
This podcast is also brought to you by you guys, the listeners. You can go to patreon.com/ccmtg. There's new rewards posted. You don't get to see all the rewards because of the way that it's set up, but we do have a set amount that when we get there, we will build a robot dinosaur for Casey and Michael's Right at Battle. To be fair, I did only say Casey originally during the meeting, and Michael got real upset. He's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I also want to ride a dinosaur.
If Casey gets a dinosaur, I get one too. That's not fair. I also I was doing Christmas shopping today, and
you bought a robot dinosaur?
No, but speaking of this, I was like looking at things, and then I got on Amazon, and I somehow started looking at drones, and I like very nearly snap bought a $500 drone racing setup, and then
for what?
No, I was just gonna like buy one for me and buy one for my brother and buy one for my dad and just like form a drone racing league. It was gonna be great. And then I looked at my checking account and was like, I probably shouldn't, spend $1,500 on drones. But I think this is a great idea.
You can donate anything you see fit, starting at $1. Everything is appreciated. It really means the world to us when somebody feels like the things that we're saying is worth something to them. So if you get the kind of value out of this that you get out of maybe Netflix or some other service that you pay for, think about donating that money this way. So.
Oh. Constructive criticism and chill is a common phrase.
It will be now because you said it on the podcast. Every week I get tweets that are like something was said like something's a character flaw now, or it's just you can't say things like otherwise you're just stuck making grilled cheese for the rest of your life. Hashtag always improving is the point of this podcast. Every week on the show we want to talk about things that are going to make you better, and really want to focus on what we've done to try and improve. We believe if you're not getting better, you're getting worse, and we always want to be doing what we can to be always improving. So for me, I played a lot of Magic this week. I think that my entire week was sucked up into two things. I don't know where it went. That might be part of being a dad. Actually don't remember most of this week, but I got to rank 14 on Hearthstone from 24 or something, so maybe that's where it went, which shouldn't take that long. It only took me a day.
Yeah, I mean that's 30 more wins than losses, so depending on your win percentage.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I played some Hearthstone, but I did get to play a lot of Magic. Kind of trying to focus on some of the simpler stuff, tapping my lands correctly again. Checking my hand before letting spells resolve, things like that. And, I think that it's always nice to kind of take a step back and be like, all right, where am I at fundamentally right now? Is this something that I'm letting slip to try and focus on bigger stuff when I should just never let that slip? And that's something that I tried to focus on this week. So, Casey, what have you done this week to improve at Magic or life in general?
Just kind of been really diving back into Legacy because it's been a while since I've really played it, other than just, for something to do. So trying to get really familiar with what people are doing in the format, what to be prepared for this Grand Prix, and, not just taking my Legacy experience for granted, trying to make sure that I'm up to date.
Sure. Michael, what about you? What have you done to try and improve at Magic this week?
I've been playing a lot of Legacy too, also just trying to get set on something for Louisville. I've played a few different decks at this point, and I'm mostly happy with where I'm at. My last few leagues have gone really well.
Good.
Just
I was kind of worried because, like, you know,
Just
you
trying to
wanted to
get
do an
dialed in.
entire show based upon your leagues, and that didn't sound like a great show.
I mean, I was joking, but you know.
You seem like you were pretty prepped for it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's the thing
An
about
entire
doing
layout
shows.
ready and
That's
all.
the thing about doing shows based only on something I already did. It's like it's pretty easy. Right? I mean, if you just want like a quick show, you can just I don't know.
So what have you been playing in the leagues, and
So, I-
how is this different than like maybe other leagues that you've played in the past?
Okay, so when I played in the past, I think first of all, I just wasn't. I haven't played a lot of Legacy for a while, and I think last time I was playing very much Legacy, I just wasn't very good at Magic in general.
Sure.
So that's some of it. I think I have better resources to lean on now with like friends who have played a good amount of Legacy. So learning to take advantage of those, of just like the information that's available to me. I started with Grixis Delver because I asked a couple of players who were very good at it, and they said that's where they thought I should start. I liked it okay, but didn't love it, so I was then playing a little Sneak and Show, and then playing Sneak and Show with Omniscience, and have mostly been really happy with that. I think it's like power. It's very powerful. You still get to play Force of Will.
So you guys both are kind of on Sneak and Show right now. I got to play some of that this week after you shared your list with me, Casey, and I feel like this deck is way more one-dimensional than it was before. What changed in it? Is it just playing more cantrips?
Um,
Did it not used to play probe or something?
no, there's no. It's basically the same. The list that I gave you has a little bit more. I think it has one or two more preordains than people usually played back then, and then it has like spell piercers instead of dazes, but it's still the same basic deck. What do you mean when you say one-dimensional?
So I don't know. I always feel like I could play some amount of a control game with Sneak and Show, and this feels really all in when I'm playing it right now.
Oh, sure. I mean, you still do that. I mean, you're still playing the same basic number of counter spells, and post-board is usually when you were more of a control deck than you were in pre-board games with any version of Sneak and Show.
Okay.
Yeah, you definitely are setting in some cards. So I've been playing this. The Omniscience version is playing like Cunning Wish, and that definitely slides you a little bit more towards having reactive stuff going on in pre-board games, like being able to get a Flusterstorm or a Surgical or whatever is pretty strong. And obviously, with Omniscience, Cunning Wish reads you either cast a free Emrakul or you win the game, depending on the exact contents of your deck or whatever.
Sure. Okay. Cool. That is good info for me. All right. That makes a lot of sense. That like it's the post-board games where you get that feeling a lot. And when we were playing a lot of Legacy, like we were playing a lot of sideboarded games, so that's probably where I got that feel a lot.
Well, the hate cards are probably better against you
Yeah.
post-board. Like pre-board, a lot of the time, just kind of show and telling anything is pretty good against
Yeah.
a lot of decks.
Yeah, your
right?
game ones are actually just insane with that deck. Basically, you can never beat Reanimator in pre or post sideboard games, but every other matchup is pretty good.
Okay. Well, let's move on to our next segment. Every week on the show, we do power rankings, so we break down the decks that are doing well in specific formats. With only the SEG Players Championship this week, there's not really a lot for us to talk about. We're gonna save the Legacy Mega rankings, or sorry, the Standard Mega rankings until the end of the format. Well, right before our set review, we'll do a mega rankings for all of Standard and kind of talk about what did well from week 1 till the end. But this week, we like to dive into a couple different formats. I thought about doing Vintage, but there was a recent banning in Pauper, so I thought we'd revisit that since last time, basically all we had to say was, Peregrine Drake is
It's comical.
yeah. It was comical that they banned a bunch of Peregrine Drakes and made Peregrine Drake a common.
Yeah.
So, but let's talk about Pauper. So this is one of my favorite formats. I think that it does the exact same thing that you guys like about Modern for me. It's this thing that if I want to go kind of like Michael said, I think a few weeks ago, if I want to go place money that I'm maybe a little bit better at Magic than you, and do it in a really fun way, Pauper's the way that I really like to do it. So let's start with number 5, the 5th ranked deck right now in Pauper. From Moto is blue, white, red, green, splash black, Tron.
I would just. It sounds way sweeter if you call it 5-color Tron. So I don't know why you're
Yeah.
missing out on that opportunity.
So this is a Seagate Oracle Mole Drifter Ulamog Crusher deck. Is kind of how I look at it. Just playing a bunch of color fixing in the form of the stars and things like that. It's obviously got like Expedition Map and stuff like that.
And Fangren Marauder, right?
And Ancient
does have
Stirrings is for
4
some reason a common.
Yeah, it
you
does
know.
have 4 Finger and Marauder. Yeah, a lot of the
Yeah.
stuff in Modern Tron is in this deck.
Yeah. Fangren Marauder, I think, is like really the like backbone of this deck. Without it, it's just so easy to get run over. You're not quite as good at having turn 3 Tron as modern decks are.
Right,
but
you
that
lose
lets you,
Sylvan
like-
Scrying, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that just lets you kind of get
Kind of-
where
It
recover
gets so
from-
much life.
Right.
That so for those who don't know, it's a green and 5 for a 5/5, and it's a beast. Whenever an artifact is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you may gain 5 life. So between your stars and your maps and your spheres and things like that.
It's important that it's repeatable because unlike in Modern, none of your threats, like... There are a lot of decks, right, that can't really beat Karnarugan, especially on turn 3 or 4.
right, but
Like-
there's basically never been a deck that couldn't beat an Ulamog's Crusher.
Right, or like, I mean, you have a lot of like reasonable spells, but it's a lot of, like Rolling Thunders
I was
and
going to say that
Chainer's
this deck
Edicts
wins a lot just by like rolling thunder, wiping your board, and then just like having the biggest thing left over, right? Even if it's just Mole Drifter.
Yeah.
Right, but often you're requiring like a sequence of multiple spells, right? Like you can't just put the game away with a single spell
And-
in most games.
A lot of the haunted Fengraph action in a lot of versions of this deck.
Yeah, there's no colored sources in the deck technically. You have like unknown shores, but yeah, a lot of people are doing like haunted Vengraph, so they can sacrifice it to return a creature at random from their graveyard to their hand. And most of the creature, I mean all of the creatures in this deck are, you have Seagate Oracle, Mole Drifter, Marauder, and Crusher. So
Yeah, they're all pretty high value or high impact plays. And
yeah, something new to this deck since the last time that I saw it is Pulse of Marasa though.
Oh, sure. It's like the broken version of
Yeah,
haunted Fengraph.
yeah. So there's 2 Pulse of Marasas in the main deck. So.
Yeah, I mean, the only issue with Pulse is that, like, given that you're not playing lands that die especially easily,
Haunted Fengraph.
well, but it's slow, right? It's
Yeah,
slow
it's
to
not
die,
like a
so
ramp.
you have to be a little bit careful, probably, with, like, the life gain probably isn't as reliable as you'd hope it would be. Like, it's a lot less good when you have to give your opponent back in Evolving Wilds to gain 6 life or something.
Yeah.
What?
Because it returns a creature or land, but in the early mid-game, there are often going to be no creatures or lands in your
Oh,
own graveyard.
I see. Well, I mean, like, I think that your Seagate Oracles, in the mid game, die quite a bit, and like, you can easily just Mole Drifter, like, as an evoke, right, and then pull some Mirage it back later.
Right, hopefully. I mean, I'm just saying,
Sure.
I would have to think some percentage of the time you're casting this as a really bad Nourish.
Sure.
Like, well, yes, I'm not dead, so that's good.
What do you guys think of this deck in the format right now? It seems really good against things like Koldatha and Delver, but like pretty weak to Affinity in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
Because Affinity just seems like it's big enough and fast enough.
yeah, definitely fast enough, especially the Atog Fling versions. I don't know how you could ever Fangren Marauder up to enough life to beat that.
But it seems like Delver should be almost a buy. Like the kind of...
Especially Mono Blue. if they're,
yeah.
like-
I think
Just, you're
Blue
not...
Black Delver is a little bit harder. That's why I liked playing that deck in Pauper. But Mono Blue Delver, I don't know how you could ever possibly lose to.
Yeah, it feels like the soft permission just isn't really going to be that good against you, and the clock isn't going to be fast enough.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have 4 main deck
Yeah, they do have
counter spells.
Counterspell in the main. But
Right, but like the logic not days parts of the deck, like it's just like
Yeah.
as soon as you play something that if a Fangren Marauder just sits in play,
Yeah,
I don't see how
probably
they could
can't beat it.
possibly beat that card.
Yeah.
Fairy Miscreant is one that like I just never really knew if I believed was ever good enough. But like I guess Ninja of the Deep Hours just makes it good enough.
Sure. Yeah. Free Miscreant is fine. That's the 1/1 flyer that you draw a card with. You already have one in play, right?
Yeah. When it enters the battlefield, if you control another creature named Fairy Miscreant, draw a card.
Yeah, and then the second one is like, you draw 2 cards, right?
Well, the third one is.
Or yeah, that's what I mean. The third one is you draw 2, and then the fourth one's a recall. Like, they're
If you have
pretty
all
good. if you
4
could-
in play at the same time, it feels like your opponent was just dead. Like,
I mean, I would keep 2 islands, 4 Fairy Miscreants on a mold of 6.
I mean, I would keep that on 7 and forget to draw my last card and still be okay with it. That sounds great.
Yeah, sometimes you net draw, but like, you're probably pretty soft to a Pyroclasm, but luckily you drew a bunch of cards.
So Affinity is next, coming in next. So these decks can be, I mean, they're almost all Atog decks. So the premise of the deck is that you get to have the Tarmogoyf, you could call it, of the format. In
Carapace Forger.
Yeah, in Carapace Forger. And you also get to just be like this huge Atog deck with flings. So for those who don't know, Atog is an old Magic card that is 1 and a red for a 1/2 that you can sacrifice an artifact and it gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So with this deck, you just make a giant Atog and then fling it at him. Which you also get the Atog threat. So like, so often you can just utilize artifacts that you already have in play as like a threaten effect even. So it's like, if you don't block this, you're going to take a ton, but also you're going to block this. I'm going to sacrifice an Ichor Wellspring. You're going to lose your guy, and I'm going to draw a card.
Yeah, and some amount of Carapace Forger, and then some of them play the white one, the white 3/3 flyer for 2, and then you've got I'm so bad at remembering the name of some of these cards.
This list especially, though, is
Frogmite.
spicy.
That can't be correct.
What is it?
It had an Urza's Glasses in it. Oh, they all have an Urza's Glasses in them right now.
What does that card even do?
It's 1 colorless mana for an artifact. You can tap it to look at target player's hand.
Oh, sure. So you know if it's safe to go for it, obviously.
Yeah, with your 1 Teamer Battle Rage and 1 Apostle's Blessing, you have so much protection.
Perfect.
Yeah, this deck is great. The spells are 4 Galvanic Blast, 1 Apostle's Blessing, 2 Fling, 1 Teamer Battle Rage, and 4 Thoughtcast.
Perfect. That's all you need. Yeah, this deck is a really cool synergy aggro deck. It's kind of a nightmare to play the mirror match because Ancient Grudge is a common.
Yeah.
And man, like everybody ends up bombed to the Stone Age.
And they just
constantly.
printed Natural State at common too, so
Sure.
now people have it all. So,
But this deck is a lot less abusive in Pauper than you're probably used to. It between playing against pretty good hate cards, even with the artifact lands, you can have some real clunkers.
I think that's actually why the mirror is like intolerable, because like you just get Stone Rain for no mana so easily.
Yeah. But you don't have the deck's not as blazing fast as Modern Affinity.
You just don't have 0
Ravager,
drops.
You don't have plating.
Right? I mean, it's more like you don't have the Memnites and Ornithopters and
Yeah.
you need the Steel Overseer kind of take 8 on turn 2 and 13 on turn 3 kind of nonsense.
There's a card from this deck that's banned in Pauper, right? It was a problem at one point.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Let me check. I think it's something stupid that you wouldn't think is a common, but somehow is. Oh yeah, it's cranial plating. Of course, obviously it is.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, cranial
That'd be a
plating
good-
is banned.
That's a good reason.
So that's what kind of prevents this deck from being oppressive.
Yeah, I do think that this fun synergy aggro deck is kind of exactly how I would define it. Like, it has a lot of play, it has a lot of flex spots too for a deck like this, where I think that you have a lot of options. Like, you can play more stars, things like that. You can do lots of different things that you want, just to make it a little bit better.
Yeah, this deck is really cool.
Next up, we do have Stompy. This comes in. This deck is, I mean, I think I said this last time. I always think of this as the Young Wolf deck.
Yeah, Young Wolf is great. This deck is fine. This deck plays 6 lands.
16 forests.
No, 16 forests. Okay.
It had a 6, whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
I was exaggerating, but yeah, it's Young Wolves and Rancors.
somebody played this against me the other day. They played Epic Confrontation against me, and I was like, oh man, that's so good.
That's so good.
Do people not... At some point, didn't people play Land Grant in this deck? Did people just decide that was bad, because the chance of getting countered was higher than, the deck thinning help? I mean, that kind of makes sense to me.
I would assume so. I didn't even know that Land Grant was a common. That's
It
great.
is. It's for masks. I
Let
like,
me
the, I
think
like
of
that.
it.
I like that the mono green Stompy deck is playing Vault Scourge.
Yeah, I think the mono green Stompy deck is it's so funny. It kind of like wins the games the way that like Infect wins like the fair way. It's like mono fair Infect all the time. It's like, all right, well I'm gonna play like a 2/2 for 1, and then I'm gonna attack you a bunch of times, and then I'm gonna like pump it with a Groundswell or a Mutagenic Growth or put a Raincore on it, and hopefully I'm gonna turn this sideways enough and I win.
It's like the games where you curve like Glistener Elf into Blighted Agent into Glistener Elf Blighted Agent. You're like,
and
get
like
there.
and you're like attack, attack, attack. That's exactly how I look at this deck.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a lot better than it sounds.
Yeah. So the boas actually really are helpful in a lot of different games.
Yeah.
Just being able to have unblockable green creatures to really like knock them down a peg is really helpful. But other than that, I think that this deck is pretty basic. I mean, you gotta play Garruk's Companion. What more could you want in the world?
It's the 3/2 trample for 2.
Yeah. Yeah, it's classic fun green cards. This is not the kind of green deck that I love. What are your guys' thoughts on this deck?
I think it's like this is kind of one of the most. This is the kind of deck people played in alpha and beta decks that are still around, which is kind of a classic callback. Like the old Metal Sentinel for value deck. Like that's just good, clean fun.
All right, the next deck is Mono Blue Delver. We already talked a little bit about Very Miscreant, but the deck is like really just like the good version of an old deck in Pauper with Ninja Depowers.
Ninja and Spire Golem. I mean, that's the combo.
Yeah.
Spire
For
Golem is
islands, what a
great.
nonsensical line of text.
No, Spire Golem is great. Spire Golem is like the epitome of. As long as Spire Golem is playable, I'll know that Pauper is basically the same as it's always been.
Yeah.
Right? Like that. It's just the baseline card for like this format is just not that powerful.
Yeah. Because I mean, it more or less is a 3-mana 2/4 flyer.
Yes,
Which is
and it's like a
fine.
decent card in the format. It's not like terrible.
like, pretty above rate.
Yeah.
People play Flame Slash specifically in their red decks because of Spire Golem.
I mean, I think that like the high toughness in flying is really what does it.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
that thing blocks Delver of Secrets like it's nothing. And Fairy Miscreant like it's really nothing.
And if your opponent is
And
swinging
flipped
there,
Delver of Secrets even.
Yeah, that's what I meant. But yeah.
Yeah, he even blocks the flip side, which is Insectile Aberration. But no, I think that this deck is one of the more fun decks in the format. I think that like anytime that I just get to play with counterspells, I'm going to be pretty happy. The deck, one thing that you're going to want to notice that when you're playing against the deck is it does play some number of quicksands between 1 and 2 usually. That is really to make them mirror, so it's not like the worst mirror in the world.
I think it's target creature without flying.
It is, but you
Yeah.
play it to kill their Delvers before they flip.
They have to attack.
Yeah. But it
Oh.
It's for the fast matchups where you're not that good. What I like about this deck is how you play this mix of like these really broken tempo cards with
Maybe it's to
with
maybe it's
Fairy
to kill their
Miscreant and
ninjas?
Spire.
Somebody told me it was for the mirror.
so
It's good against Ninja, but it's also because your deck can be kind of slow on the draw in the aggro matchups.
Okay.
It's just
Yeah,
a removal spell.
It's for killing, like the random 1/1s in Stompy and like
Yeah.
the
Well, it's -1, -2, so
yeah,
it
it's
kills
one is-
the.
Yeah,
minus
oh,
one,
yeah.
minus 2.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So it kills even a young wolf that's already come back.
So, my understanding is that's the reason that you played it in Serrated Arrows was to make the mirror match like tolerable.
Yeah, Serrated Arrows is good in the Spire match.
I just really enjoy this deck because of the contrast you get. You're playing like Fairy Miscreant, Dreamstalker, and Spire Golem in your counterspell Preordain, Ponder, Gush,
Delver of Secrets.
Delver of Secrets, like Snap deck. You get to play all these like really powerful cards, and then you're like, but we don't want it to be too powerful, so we're gonna round it out with some Spire Golems.
Yeah. And, like you've got cards that are banned in Legacy and restricted in Vintage. And
Spire Golem and Fairy Miscreant, of course.
Quicksand.
And
yeah.
Casey, your favorite deck is actually number 1 right now in Koldatha Boros, which is really Jeskai Koldatha.
Yeah, this is a sweet deck. Basically, it would make sense to me that this deck would be really well positioned right now because your only bad matchup was Peregrine Drake decks or when I was playing this deck a lot, Cloud of Fairies decks. But the Ghostly Flicker archetype is really hard to beat because you can't outvalue them. But this deck is so much value.
Yeah. So what does this deck do?
So basically, you are playing Glinthawks and Core Skyfishers, and you're using them to keep returning things like Prophetic Prisms and Ichor Wellsprings, just to draw millions of cards. Lone Missionaries to gain life. Mole Drifters to kind of be your finisher and more card advantage. And then just a little bit of burn to round out the deck. Deck is both removal and reach. You've got 4 Galvanic Blasts, which are really powerful because of all your artifacts. And Angelic Purge just looks like a new addition to the deck since I've played it. That's pretty sweet.
That seems like a really good fit, actually.
Yeah. The deck takes really good advantage of bounce lands because you get to bounce back the cycling lands that you play
Later in the game.
Yeah, exactly, to cycle them. And the deck just basically can outvalue any deck in Pauper by a lot. Like, this deck could go toe-to-toe with most Legacy decks in terms of value.
You can also
It's
have
just
some
slow.
surprisingly aggressive draws.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I mean,
if you go like Ancient Den, Glinthawk, and then play the red one, Great Furnace, into Lightning Bolt you can really
Or
start to change some
or
stuff
just
together.
Kuldotha Rebirth, and
Yeah. Kuldotha Rebirthing, it's mostly
land,
to right. It can be for a land, it can be a land in your aggressive draws, but it's so good on Ichor Wellspring.
or Prism, really. I mean, because
Yeah.
Prism you get the value on the draw and that. Yeah.
Well, but Wellspring is when it comes in and when it leaves. So you just,
Sure.
it's
No,
just,
it's actively great with Wellspring, but
Yeah.
but it's very good with Prism
oh
too.
yeah, and totally fine on an excess land. The deck just has so many value plays for a deck that plays so much burn.
Yeah, it has a lot of reach.
Has a lot of different angles of attack.
the draw some cards in the mid-late game, Galvanic Blast you, Galvanic Blast you. I mean, I think we've all lost to that kind of thing out of Affinity, so it's sort of the same
Yeah,
principle, right?
yeah. This deck is good, clean fun though.
So what deck would you guys play right now, and why? In Pauper.
Yeah, definitely Jeskai. This deck's everything I've ever wanted.
So apparently there is a deck called Jeskai Drake still that doesn't have Drakes in it.
Yeah, you know why? Because Ghostly Flicker is still great.
There's only one Ghostly Flicker in the deck.
Yeah, but you find it every game because you're playing Mystical Teachings.
But you just monotonic wall it back.
Yeah.
Right, you only need one.
I was going to say, Ghostly Flicker is not just good for infinite combo, it's also great just as a value card. That was the whole reason the deck was so good, right? Because you would just,
Yeah, block, Ghostly Flicker, yeah. Ugh.
yeah.
So one thing that we do notice from last time is that because of the fact that that deck has fallen down with it went the mono red decks like Goblins and mono red burn.
Yeah, because those decks are not so good. But the Ghostly Flicker decks take a lot of time to set up because they need to play a lot of bounce lands and a lot of do nothing cards in the early game. That,
Right. The problem is you get to the late game, and they are so much better than anything else you're going to be doing. They just make whatever else you're doing look pretty crappy.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so outside of because burn, you're working with a real motley crew of burn spells and
Yeah,
and
Needle
creatures.
Drop.
Yeah, Needle Drop just to get the job done. It's not what you're looking for.
Yeah. So I would still play Izzet Blitz. I mean, first of all, because why wouldn't you play the modern deck? And you have a modern deck legal in this format, you might as well play it.
You also have Infect. It's a choice.
That's true, but it's not. It's no Mimic Cyclop Kiln Fiend deck. No, I really like that deck right now. I think that it's pretty decent against a lot of the decks we just talked about. But honestly, I'm kind of wanting to expand a little bit. I played some Mono Blue Delver way back when I very first started. Somebody actually loaned me the deck on Moto, and I might want to try that again. But I actually don't know what these blue-black control decks that everybody keeps talking about are.
They're mostly bad, but they win with.
Wait, you don't want to play the Eldrazi Sky Spawner Gurmag Angler deck?
This deck. Okay, this deck's actually gone through some updates.
Well, there's
since
both
I saw
of them.
it.
There's two of them that I see.
Okay.
The first one that I see though is this. This can't be the deck that people are talking about though. Maybe it is, but
No, I don't think so. I think it's the lower one, the Mystical Teachings deck.
oh man, this deck plays Forbidden Alchemy.
Yeah, and it wins.
I remember.
Forbidden Alchemy, Accumulated Knowledge, Chainer's Edict is all like really cute together.
Yeah.
Oh man,
So
I want to play this deck.
the blue black control deck
It's 12. It's like $12.
plays 0 creatures, and its win condition is Ivankar's Justice and Pristine Talisman. For those of you that don't know Ivankar's Justice, it's a 4-mana spell that deals 2 damage to each creature and each player, and has buyback of 3. So it like pings down your opponent while you gain back a bunch of life with Pristine Talisman.
Perfect.
That sounds like great fun.
Yeah, this deck plays 0 creatures.
Is Pristine Talisman the one that flips into?
No, it
it's-
gains you life every time you tap, but it taps for colorless.
Yeah, it's a 3-mana talisman, taps for 1 color.
Oh, I'm thinking of the Chalice of Life and Chalice of Death.
Oh, no, Pristine Talisman even.
I'm pretty sure Chalice of Life is an uncommon.
Okay.
Yeah. But you play like Radiant Fountains, and you play Dimir Aqueduct to bounce back your Radiant Fountains.
Yeah.
So all of that sounds great, but I'm really all about this this other blue black deck. I'm probably gonna buy it. It's not very expensive. What about you, Michael? What would you play in this format?
I kind of want to play Affinity.
Okay.
You know,
You
get
just-
some.
You
Get some.
really want to throw a tog at someone?
Well, mostly I want to get like catharsis for my childhood that was mostly ruined by Affinity. So
Sure.
You need closure of
Yeah.
that chapter of your life.
yeah, exactly. But I do really want like a Tog Teamer Battle Rage just sounds like good wholesome fun.
That's one way to put it. That's one thing you could say about that.
It's like the broken version of a Tog Fling and the broken version of Kiln Fiend Battle Rage.
Because you have a
Whoa,
backup plan, which
whoa.
is play Carapace Forger and get in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so that wraps up our Power Ranks this week. A little bit laid back. I mean, it's December 19th. Like, no one's playing Magic.
Also, my eyeballs are trying to escape my skull, so you're gonna get what you can get, right?
Why are they doing that?
I just have like a lot of sinus pressure.
It's so rude of them.
Yeah, that sounds painful.
It's not what eyeballs are supposed to do.
Let's move on to our training grounds. Every week on the show, we want to talk about something that might make you a little bit better at Magic, life in general. So, what I think this time last year, it was. Was it just me and Manny, or were you back yet?
I don't think so.
I think it was just me and Manny.
Yeah.
I think we're doing it me and Manny style.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't think I was back until like April or May.
But yeah, we talked a lot about goals at the end of last year and kind of things that you can do and like that. And so for me, I actually on the podcast set a goal to try and read daily Magic content, whether or consume daily Magic content. So we want to kind of like look back at, even those you guys weren't on the show, you probably both had goals in 2016 that you tried to set and achieve. So, but let's kind of look back on 2016 and see where we landed on our goals and what we can do better. Or maybe you guys just crushed them and the whole world is about to change for you. So what were your goals in 2016, Michael?
Well, let's see. I guess going into last year, I had won a PPTQ at either the end of November or the beginning of December. So I guess I wanted to do well at an RPTQ, but I didn't have very good framework in place for helping myself have like my best chances to success. So I don't really know. I wasn't really in the mindset where I was setting goals. I was just playing weekly events and trying to.
What about throughout 2016? Did you find yourself setting goals for yourself?
Yeah, I think like playing in an RPTQ and just sort of like getting together with you guys and trying to like play test a little more seriously and trying to prioritize events and things like that gave me some goals. I wanted to qualify for a pro tour.
Sure. And you did.
And that was probably about it. I didn't really know where to go from there.
Okay.
So I was
What about
able
you,
to do that.
Casey, what about you? You came back to Magic,
Yeah.
Probably with some, big eyes and big dreams.
Kind of. So when I came back, I played really, really casually for like the first little while of coming back. But once I kind of was back in the groove and I wanted to start playing real Magic tournaments again, which was around the time Oath of the Gatewatch came out. So whenever that was, maybe summertime-ish.
No, that was like
It was a little bit
January.
before that, right? Because it was Green White Tokens era that you really got into it.
Well, that's when I was playing a lot. But I played some amount of Oath of the Gatewatch.
Well, the Gatewatch would have been like
Still.
January, because Shadows was like April,
Was
and then Eldritch Moon was like July.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
sure.
I have these things mixed up. Because Green White Tokens didn't happen until Battle for Zendikar happened.
right. No, until
Until
Shadows, because you had
Shadows
to have
happened.
Avacyn.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm all messed up.
So around Oath, which I guess was maybe January-ish,
Yeah, so I
February-ish.
think right after that is when you really started trying to hit the
Yeah,
big
is
time.
when I was playing
Yeah.
some, and then around the time Shadows came out is when I was really playing a lot. And around that time, that's when I started refocusing, and I did want to qualify for a Pro Tour. That was kind of my big one at that time. And, I was luckily able to get there.
Okay.
And we're moving on from that, trying to qualify for multiple Pro Tours and
Sure.
looking at Pro Points, things like that. But since I wasn't playing Magic at the beginning of the year or even really considering Magic much until close to the middle of the year, I don't know, I didn't really like 2016 as a Magic year for me. I didn't have a lot.
Yeah, so for me, I was 2016 is like really weird for me. So, my wife, I don't think that we talked about it on the show. My wife and I were actually pregnant again, at the end of December, right before you quit Magic again.
So I quit Magic in August.
Okay, so it was right after that. Anyway, we got pregnant again, and we. So I took a break from Magic because of my experience at Pro Tour Origins, and then I was like, okay, I'm like ready to come back, and then we found out we were pregnant, and so I was like, okay, well, like, I'm not gonna play Magic, and then about 2 months later, we lost that baby to a miscarriage. I was like, okay, well, like, let's refocus. Like, let's get into the groove of this. And then, literally, like weeks later, in February when you came back to the podcast, we got pregnant again. So this whole year, I've conceded in the finals of 2 PPTQs, conceded in the top 8 of 4 PPTQs. Just never really had that as my goal in Magic. My goal has just been to improve this podcast and improve Magic in general. My main goal was to consume more Magic content. I set very specific goals, so I want to talk about kind of that next. So for me, I had set a very specific goal of I will read or consume one thing of Magic content every day. So I learned a few things about myself. One, I am very different from my friends. I hate most Magic articles. Like, actually actively hate them. I can listen to most of them because it makes them, like, really short and, like, not... So, like, when I read for fun, right?
Sure.
So, like, I read novels and things like that, and a lot of PV's articles are fun for me. When Brian Kipler was writing a lot, I really liked reading his articles. And I just don't find that same enjoyment out of... I love Frank Karsten, but I don't like reading Frank Karsten's articles. There's an app that we got a request for last time I mentioned this, so I thought I'd give it a shout-out. It's if you have an iPhone, there's an app called AudioFi. And what you do with AudioFi is you can take an article, save it to AudioFi. So if I show
And you
this
can audioify it. I mean,
yeah,
I
it
think the name
audifies
is
it.
pretty
Yeah,
self-explanatory,
so
right?
if you look at my AudioFi, what does it look like?
It's just all Channel Fireball articles.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll take a bunch of them, and I'll just listen to the articles as I'm driving to consume that Magic content and what would have been downtime otherwise, where I would have just been like listening to music or whatever. And so I didn't achieve my goal of like consuming it every day because there's a certain threshold that a Magic content needs to meet for me to enjoy it.
Sure.
But I did do well at like consuming it. So for you both, where Michael, I think 2016 was just very different for you, right? You got into Magic probably at near the middle of 2015, and then 2016, it kind of just catapulted.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really I didn't play a PPTQ until pretty late in 2015. I just hadn't considered really trying to play Magic more competitively. And I guess I felt like I was kind of fortunate to be put into a group of people who were more interested in playing Magic competitively. And then I mostly was fairly successful from there and started getting to the point where I feel like I could set concrete goals about what I would like to accomplish in competitive Magic.
So did you feel like there were a lot of things that were like, okay, I'm going to do this. How will I create a process in which to make that happen, and then did that process?
No.
Okay. So how did that come
That's-
about for you?
I mean, maybe that's kind of weird. I'm not the best person at planning.
Sure.
So, but I am really obsessive. So,
Okay.
planning things is kind of boring sometimes and difficult and requires you to think more than kind of day by day. But if you realize you're pretty decent at something and you just decide, I really like this, I want to be good at it. I think that you can be more efficient at getting better at something by being really goal oriented, but I think you can get better at something sort of just slugging through it too. It's obviously smarter to try to set goals and work out a process for how you're going to do this. But if you just decide, I'm going to get good at Magic by playing Magic and talking about Magic and thinking about Magic and reading about Magic, you can probably get pretty good at Magic that way too.
Yeah, and it's interesting that this is kind of how you went about it, because on this podcast we often preach about setting realistic goals for yourself, right? You jumped in right away. For you, it was different. You didn't have to set winning an FNM as your goal. You didn't have to set winning a game day as your goal, right? You had to set winning a PPTQ as your goal. You wanted to win a PPTQ, and then you wanted to do well at an RPTQ. And I think might have been before you won your first PPTQ that we kind of started talking to you.
No, I'd won one because I won it in November.
Okay.
But I think it's more when you haven't been doing something for very long, it's hard to tell how good you are, let alone how good you can be.
Sure.
So it's pretty hard to set a realistic goal when you just have no idea what a realistic goal is for you.
Okay.
Right? I mean, if you've played a bunch of FNMs and you're struggling to win one, there's a pretty clear, this is what my next goal should be
Sure.
kind of thing. Whereas if you haven't been playing for very long and you're sort of in the I'm getting better but I'm not really sure where I am stage, if you just don't have very good measuring sticks, it's hard to decide what you want to get to.
And next week we're going to talk about our goals for next year and things like that. And I think that you probably will have more concrete goals for next year.
Yeah, I have a much better idea of what is realistic for me, what would be low achieving, high achieving, medium achieving.
And Casey, for you, 2016 in Magic, even though it wasn't a main focus for a lot of the year, it had to be bittersweet, right? The number of times that you top 8 PPTQs and were I don't know why I'm not winning, and then to win one, even though it was just it always felt like you were supposed to be there, it still had to feel at least oh, finally, freaking A.
Yeah, well, so 2015 was ridiculous in that regard. I think that we counted them all up at one point, and I had top 8 at
13 or something.
It was way more than that. It was 30.
I don't think it was that. Maybe it was. I don't know.
I had taken second at 4 of them.
Sure.
It was a lot, and yeah, it was just things were just not breaking my way, and it was super frustrating. And then so to kind of get that off my back at some point, and to go to that first RPTQ and end up doing very well at it and qualify for the Pro Tour, it definitely started to feel like things were falling into place.
It's actually funny because when you guys qualified for the Pro Tour, I had a completely different perspective on the Pro Tour than I had when I qualified for the Pro Tour. So, like, you know, starting out 3-0 at the Pro Tour, for me, I think felt differently for you. Because for me, it was like, oh, man, like, I can do this. Like, I can go. And, like, for you, it was just like, no, like, I have a bigger fish to fry here. And the thing is like, I wanted to do well enough at that Pro Tour to go to Brussels with Quentin. But, like, I think that I didn't set my goals high enough, and I settled because of it. Whereas I don't think that you guys settled at this Pro Tour. I think that, like, we had a group around you guys that were like, all right, so, like, here's what the information that we can present to you, and then you took that information and made the best decision possible. Whereas for both me and Quentin, like, we were just like, all right, like, I'm going to find a deck that I can do reasonably well with and play it and, like, hope I do well enough at the Pro Tour. Which is just a completely different mindset than, like, no, my goal is actually to win this Pro Tour, and, like, I think that it was just a different experience.
Yeah, that's very true. Because there were a lot of decks that we'd had and we talked about. It was like
you guys could have played like a black-red aggro deck. You guys
like
could
yeah, there's a lot of decks that seemed fine, right?
Yeah.
Like you could probably do pretty well in constructed, and as long as we have a good draft record, like could potentially try to run it into the next Pro Tour. But everybody, Michael, Danny, and myself all picked decks that were like we felt gave us the best chance to win the tournament, to make top 8 and to win the tournament.
Yeah.
And that's by playing decks that certainly had weaknesses,
Yeah.
but had a lot of strengths.
So I think some of that, though, is like it's believing in the framework around you that, like, the easiest. So obviously, the easiest way to get back to a Pro Tour is just to do reasonably well at the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
But it's like if you don't get there that way, it's like my expectation is to play.
Yeah.
I mean, I would be pretty disappointed. Like, my expectation is to play
I
basically every Pro Tour.
I kind of want to hit on what Casey said a little bit there. I don't even know that it was like these had glaring weaknesses as much as it was like this has just actually been the best decks in testing. We're just going to take, like, if I had taken the best decks in testing to my Pro Tour, I would have played Blue-Black Control or Teamer. Like, those were the best decks in our testing. And then the safest deck, like, and I don't even know that it was like the safest deck in just my testing. I think it was just the safest deck across the board was like these green-red devotion decks that like were crushing the SEG circuit. Like, I mean, we certainly didn't discover red-blue artifact aggro, and like it was never seen again after that Pro Tour. Like, it was specifically built to be the deck that I played. But like, you guys not only was it Pro Tour 1 where like you just kind of have to do exactly what Michael said, where it's like we're gonna trust this framework about like this ground that we set. This is the metagame that we believe. These are the good decks that we believe in. And like, what are we doing to beat these decks, and what are the best decks of these decks? And that's a completely different thing that also I think let you set like I actually don't know that like trying to like crush the Pro Tour was not a realistic goal for you guys. Like, you guys had combined with like you and the group around you had a lot of playtesting hours in.
Yeah, I mean, we were very close on the metagame. There was just a little bit more of certain things. We gave up on a couple of ideas a little bit early, but we had the broad framework of the metagame pretty well down.
Yeah.
And we didn't miss by that much, and, for the next one, we're going to be that much more prepared, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think some of it, too, is, like, just understanding that, like, although you can qualify for a Pro Tour, you don't really get anything for going, like, 11-5.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's fine. It's nice to run it back, I guess.
Yeah, but if you win, you get to go to all of them for 2 years.
Well, right. I mean, it's just, like, my goal is not to play Pro Tours to play them. My goal is to play Pro Tours to try to succeed.
Yeah.
Right. Like, just playing to play doesn't really hold any appeal. Right.
You don't want to be a replacement level Pro Tour player.
I can just take a vacation if I just want to take a vacation. Right.
Sure.
Like, I mean, it's cool and all, but like you want to try to do the best you can and like hopefully win. And I mean, obviously, that's not to disrespect. Obviously, there are a lot of really great players, and like it's going to be very hard to beat them. But I think it's more about like self-belief, like in the sense that it's not like the only way I can get back to a Pro Tour is to go 11-5.
Right.
I absolutely believe that if you put me in an RPTQ field, I have a pretty good chance to just get there.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons that 2016 was so frustrating for me. It's because I like won a PBTQ, didn't play Magic for months, and then like I took ninth or 10th in an RPTQ where like I made the stupid mental error where like I mean I lost a win in playing a deck that I played 1,000 games with, like where I just didn't grab enough lands with my escape shift. Like that's just my fault. Like I just would have top aided that and had a win and in to go back to the Pro Tour like very quickly after my last Pro Tour invite. And I think that, I mean, it was literally like this time. I guess it was actually in 2015 because it was December of. No, it had to be later than that. Anyway, the point is like I believe what Michael is saying. I think that this segment of this podcast in particular is very different because like I think we were all in very different places of Magic, both at the beginning and now at the end of 2016. You know, when you look back, how does 2016 goals compare to like your previous Magic goals, Casey?
They're probably pretty close. You know, I was last couple years I'd kind of been in hunt for that first Pro Tour invitation, and you know this year it more just came true more than the goals were necessarily different. The way I took approaching those goals was a lot different, but the goals didn't really change.
Did that help you? Becoming more process oriented is probably what happened, and like
Yeah.
How does that? How did when you let's say you're going to a job interview, you would probably call yourself more process oriented now than anything else in that job interview. Whether you're talking about Magic or not, like that's just the kind of person you become.
Yeah. And it's something that I've always very much believed in, but had a hard time implementing in Magic for some reason. But now that I've really kind of gotten on board with that in Magic, it has helped me a lot, and that is something that is very true. Focusing on the process, the things you can control, not the things you can't control.
Sure. For me, the goals are just so different. Like, I just have never had an opportunity to like set high goals in Magic this year. I actually remember November of 2015. One of my huge goals was like to track my win percentage and try and increase it. I think that will probably be a goal for me in the future. Is like a huge goal for me will probably be to increase my win percentage. I want to get really close to like the 70s, just all around in Magic. And I think that like I set weird goals because like it's hard to achieve something when I know that my wife's not gonna let me like travel for like a bunch of Magic tournaments, right? So I didn't try well in RPTQ. I mean, I tried well in PPTQs, but like I never tried to qualify for an RPTQ, and it was kind of like a step back. And it's hard to like look at this as a successful year for me. I think that if I were to rate 2016, I think that I did it wrong. Like, I should have prioritized going to Pro Tours before my kid was born a little bit more than trying to appease my wife and like have her worried while she was pregnant. I mean, my wife had a really hard pregnancy, so I don't know, but I think I did it wrong. Do you think that your goals were realistic for yourself, Casey?
Yeah, I do. I didn't really like set out super clear goals, so the goals are kind of revisionist. So, feeling like setting your goals after you've already accomplished them makes them feel very realistic.
Sure.
Almost by definition.
But yeah, I do feel like it was realistic. I don't feel like I had my dreams dashed at any point in Magic this year.
So New Year's resolutions suck, but what do you think? Do you think that as you were creating your goals for yourself, that you set realistic goals? You're like a pretty down-to-earth guy, Michael, so.
Yeah, I think the way I think about things is like, okay, so like, I'll instead of being like, this is my goal, and then setting a really medium goal, that I kind of think about like, if things go well, I hope I can have this happen. If I do about average, I think this will happen. And if I do poorly, I think this will happen, kind of. And then, like, how can I work to try to give myself to try to, like, split the percentages so I have the best chance at, like, one of the upper two outcomes?
Sure. I mean, and targeting the do well part.
Right. So, I mean, you just say, okay, so...
Kind of like a shoot for the moon, hit the stars, or shoot the stars to the moon. I don't know how that goes.
I mean,
Well,
I
stars
think
are
if
further
you're,
away,
like...
so
I know,
you
but
shoot
I don't
for
think
the
that's actually how that phrase goes.
it is. You shoot for the as long as you shoot for the. Nobody ever says shoot for the moon. You say shoot for the stars.
Shoot for the stars, because if you fall short, you're still hit the moon.
Yeah.
Yay.
But that's kind of what
right.
you're saying.
But what I'm saying also is when you're talking about Magic, especially, like, your shoot for the stars goal, if you are playing competitive Magic, should be to become a Platinum Pro. Right?
Interesting. So would that be your goal next year?
I mean, that would be like the version where you win a Pro Tour version of the goal.
Okay.
So, like, if I won a Pro Tour and didn't make Platinum, I don't know what the hell happened, but, like, it was bad, except for
You
that
got yourself
event.
disqualified or something.
I did something really. It was a very strange year, and with one very good event. So, like,
it's really hard to go to bronze or from bronze to platinum.
right. So, like, so what I'm saying is, like, I think that saying, like, you don't want to set a goal that, like, makes you complacent, right? So, like, at this point with 2 PT qualifications, if I play a bunch of GPs and I play at least one more Pro Tour this season, I should probably be able to get to 20.
Right.
With, like, a pretty medium case.
And we'll get
scenario.
into that a little bit
But
next week.
but I think all I'm saying is that I think, like, saying I want to get silver if you're in a spot where, like, realistically that's a totally achievable thing is sort of strange goal setting, but so is saying I want to get 50 pro points or whatever, because you're probably just going to be
just not
discouraged,
close.
right? You're
Like-
going to need to, like, top 8 multiple GPs.
yeah, like
and,
you just didn't get enough pro points from the first Pro Tour of this last.
well, no, you would have to, like, top 8 multiple GPs
Sure.
and top 8 things would have to go very, very right in a way that I don't think you can, like,
So
you can't process yourself
Yeah,
into
you're
this.
kind of talking about what I want to talk about next, which is, do you guys like setting, like, so for the company that I work for, we set goals that we know we're not going to meet. As a startup company, like, you don't want to set the goal so far that, like, you just don't want to try for it, but they do like setting goals that, like, that's not happening. Like, we're gonna get really close. Like, we're gonna get 800 out of 1,000, but, like,
But you're probably not going to be like a Fortune 500 company in
Well,
6 months.
yeah.
That's generally what I think is you should probably try to set figure out where you think that you'll end up as long as things go well, and then set your goal to be about 20% past that.
So
that's kind of where I'm at too.
Yeah.
I like thinking of goal setting in terms of process goal setting. So my goal right now is to, when I lock into a deck for Louisville completely, to not have any doubts about the deck I'm playing. Because I think that if I achieve that goal, the way I'm going to achieve that is by playing a bunch more matches, feeling good about different matchups, understanding, what I can and can't control with the deck that I choose. And then that gives me a good chance to, have a reasonable finish in Louisville. And then you go from there. Right?
Yeah.
And I think, like...
So you don't really like having achievement goals as much as starting point.
I want goals that are, like,
Controllable.
effort based
Yeah.
or, like, volume based, not, like, finish based, because I think just, like, making finish based goals just generally will make you upset with things you can't control. Like, you just can't control how you draw, right? I mean, I think of, like,
It's true.
like Danny talked about losing a win-in for top 8 at Pro Tour Eldritch Moon. He was like, oh yeah, I mostly just played like 30 matches against Band Company. That was my testing for that event. So although that event was really successful for him in results, like, that level of preparation wasn't like coherent with his finish, right? So
It actually had nothing to do with it.
right, like
So then it
he
was just
happened to
good
choose a
breaks.
deck that was
Yeah.
very good, but, like, it wasn't his preparation that made the deck good. It was that, like, his matches broke well and he played well. But I think so. So not to make this about like, oh, Danny's so lucky. Just like, I think if you set goals that are based on how you finish, you are going to end up with weird evaluations of how you've given yourself a chance to achieve those goals. Like, you're going to either be upset despite doing a really good job and not finishing as well as you'd hoped, or you're going to be happier than you should be because you had an above average like variance finish.
I couldn't have said that better.
Yeah, no, I think that's extremely well said.
Yep. So next week we're going to talk a little bit about like what our goals are going into the next year and things like that. You can help us reach our next goal by going to Patreon. You go to patreon.com/ccmtg. You can donate $1 or more per month. Anything that you really see fit. If you find you get value out of this podcast, it's greatly appreciated. Our next goal, we're 58% of the way there, and it is to make those cast tokens happen. We're putting a hold on them. Did you figure out what you wanted to be?
Not yet.
Okay.
Just give me some time, but I will find a
You'll find a sweet
perfectly
token.
Shameful token to be.
Shameful. So yeah, we're gonna get we're gonna keep Manny tokens. Don't tell him that, but you will get a full set. So you'll get Manny.
What is Manny?
Manny is a soldier. Casey is a monk. So 1/1 prowess monk. I am a 4/4 dragon, or a 5/5 dragon. I don't know.
I kind of want to be a goat so I can be in Manny's cult.
Oh my gosh, I can actually just see you like actually wanting to be that. But like if you're a goat, I really want you to be like sitting on a stump and like with your arms crossed, with like Manny with his like Gideon whip behind you or something. Like
You don't whip your cult members. You've clearly never been in a good cult, Spencer.
it's true. I've never been in a good cult. But yeah, so we're
No wonder
50%
your
of the way
opinion
there.
is so
and
negative.
once we get there, we will do card of the week every week as well. So right now we do card of the week whenever we see something that we really. The goal is like if we see something like impactful, right? So like the last one was like Panharmonicon. If we do like a special episode, we'll like do one for those every week. But we really wait to like have like. This week, this did well. Whereas once we hit that goal, we will do card of the week.
Otherwise, it would just be Emrakul every week. Emrakul, it's still the card of the week.
Yeah, I mean, we could maybe get a discount buying them in bulk, though.
You get an Emrakul. You get an Emrakul. You get an Emrakul. But yeah, so check out patreon.com/ccmtg to be part of that. So you can join the conversation by joining the Facebook group. You can just search Constructive Criticism Facebook family or Constructive Criticism family and ask for a join. And as long as you're not trying to sell Ray-Bans to me or the people in the group, I'll
You
happily
can sell
handle
them to me, though. That's fine.
Yeah, you can just message him directly. You don't have to join the group to do that. But yeah, you can join the group that way. There are people spearheading wanting to do things as a clan. That's a great place to get that started as well. You can join the clan by messaging me at Spencer13Dev or Quinn at Earthstripe. That's URTHSTYRPE. You can also, you can tweet with hashtag Would It Be Good. Hashtag Would It Be Good, as we used to call it, is our Twitter outreach program. Why did we call it that?
I don't know.
That seems like so conceited.
Yeah, I don't remember how it started.
All right, so let's start with hashtag Would It Be Good. We have Lonnie D9 on December 15th says some graveyard hate. Hashtag Would That Be Good.
Nah, my Emrakuls are mostly cast off Aetherworks Marvel. Graveyard Hate is
Yeah.
not saving you.
Well, it makes Ishkan a lot worse.
Well, fortunately, I don't need that.
What do you
I'm
think
pretty good at hitting Emrakul on the first try.
Must be nice.
It is.
What do you guys think about like how good of graveyard hate? Like, are we talking like surgical extractions? Like, what are we talking about here?
I mean, surgical specifically would be strange for a variety of reasons. Like,
Sure.
the whole Phyrexian mana thing.
Maybe would Rest in Peace be good? Is that what you're getting at?
So I don't think it's like would it be good, like as in like would those be good right now, as much as like would it be good if we had these because like this is out of hand.
Would it be
kind
good
of
for the
question.
format?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it would.
I don't think graveyards are like. So like Delirium is a deck that uses this graveyard, but it's not like in love with its graveyard.
I would
It's not,
rather-
like, Reanimator or something.
So I don't actually have the problem that most people have with this format. Most people like really hate Evercool and like getting Mindslavered, and like I think it actually leads to more interesting gameplay. I don't know. I don't really understand the argument that like having to prepare to get Mindslavered and then having to Mindslaver them correctly. Like I actually think that it leads to like the better player winning a lot, and I don't like the argument that it doesn't.
I think if you wanted to print hate for it, I would rather see some like Gaddock Teague style like cards
That's how
with
I
this
feel about it, too,
CMC
yeah.
because I feel like, or something that was like Containment Priesty but hit Aetherworks Marvel.
Yeah.
Right, like I don't think that
I like that a lot
like
more.
like Tormod's Crypt or Scavenging Ooze or Rest in Peace, like those are all just going to make green black like really difficult to play, you know, because your Grim Flare is going to be a 2/2 all the time or whatever.
2/2 trample.
Yeah, exactly. Get out of here, Spirit Token. But like that just seems not fun.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think you because I think that card
Yeah,
would just be
I
too
agree.
incidentally
I think
good
that,
against.
I think that people think that the
Yeah.
graveyard is the problem, when I think that acquiring types in your graveyard is just something that happens in Magic a lot, and that's why Delirium is such a sweet mechanic, and that's also why they didn't think that they needed to print, and I don't think that they did need to print Graveyard Hate, because like it's just something that naturally occurs throughout a match of Magic, and it also builds an inherent deck building cost, which I really appreciate. What I would say is something like Gaddock Teak would be like way more interesting to me, like an effect where it's like, okay, like you just don't
Specifically, you can't Emrakul me.
you just don't get Emrakul me.
I
Sorry,
mean,
dude.
people have already done some stuff like that with like Sigarda, right?
Yeah.
Like tried things. Like I mean,
I think cards like Pithing Needle are kind of nice to have around in Standard, just in case something like just kind of general.
but Pithing Needle
hate
is like a
cards.
lot less oppressive as a hate card than
Right.
like the good graveyard hate cards
Yeah,
are. Even
exactly.
the decks that Pithing Needle is good against, it's like it's only good at very specific stages of the game.
Yeah, and
Multiples
it's like
are
play a
always
shatter,
bad.
Like it's easy
yeah.
enough to beat.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas like Rest in Peace and Tormod's Crypt or whatever, kind of like once they happen to you, it's kind of too late.
Yeah, it's either great or terrible. It's like
All right.
no in between.
At QR's follower says, at Spencer38 made the Patreon question of the week, unlimited resources. Hashtag would that be good? It would have been if they had answered my question.
What was your question?
So I specifically asked about like, about the Pro Tour, and like, and they answered it as though like, I was like an FNM player.
What was your question?
I mean, I can go to it.
Just from memory.
So I asked the question on the show that didn't make the air to you guys too, where it's like, how do I, as a player, keep the fire and like immediately get back to the Pro Tour and back to the level that my friends are at, where they're all qualifying for Pro Tours, going to Pro Tours a lot, and they answered it like I was an FNM player, which it's whatever. Like I think that it targeted their audience a lot better.
yeah.
Well, and it's also that's a really hard question to answer. I don't
Well,
know that
I
there's,
specifically asked LSV, like, do you feel like you will be ready to be back on the Pro Tour when you're done with this? Like, how do you keep your skill at the level of your friends on Team Channel Fireball while you're doing coverage? Because as we've seen from other players who are pro players that go on to the coverage scene, it's really hard for them to like keep that level
Just
of play.
Jump straight back in.
Yeah, and then jump straight back in. It's just it's almost impossible. So like, how do I, as somebody who now has a baby, try and do that? And that was more my question, but they kind of targeted it towards the FNM Pro, which is fine. Like, I think I still got my answer. Like, just like, you know, when like go hard once in the paint once you're back, and like do what you can to like stay up to date now, which is like a fine answer. But
I would recommend top 8ing a GP when you play your
like
next
right
GP.
my first GP back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be
That's
my
the easiest way.
recommendation.
All right, so you heard it here first. I'm going to top 8 2 GP Vegases.
So you're gonna play the one that's like Thursday to Friday, and then play the one that's Saturday to Sunday.
Yeah.
Boom. Are you gonna win them both, or just top 8?
Like, I don't know why you're trying to call my shots right now, but it's so aggressive.
I mean, that's 16 points. That's most of the way to silver.
I'm trying to flesh out your shot here.
Right. You gotta visualize it.
It's more than 16, right? It's 8 plus 8 plus 3,
Three.
so it's 18 points?
It's
that would be
19.
19, including the
Or
Pro
19
Tour,
points, yeah, there you go.
I just mean like just the.
So
Pro
I just would
Tours.
need to play in one more GP to
Well,
like, get
so
there.
those Pro Tours are like in July or whatever, right? So they would qualify you for the first Pro Tour of the next season.
I don't.
Oh, only 16. So bad. Well, you know, if you take second at one of them, you might really be in trouble.
Oh, yeah. Let's move on. I am not saying I'm doing any of that stuff. I'm playing in Vegas to see our listeners more than like do well at the tournament.
Jeez.
What? I just don't have any
You won't
goals
set a
yet.
goal.
Yeah,
Oh. You have to wait till next week for that one?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right.
Hashtag would that be good is the entire tweet by me. And it's the Seattle Seahawks created a magic card for Cases Marsh, who got a sack. And he, for those who don't know, he lost his Magic collection, got stolen in a car. Wizards of the Coast sent him some cards, and so Cases Marsh is
There's no way that name's not Cassius.
whatever.
Or
Sure,
Cassius.
whatever it is. Mr. Marsh is 1 green and 1 blue for a 12/12. You can pay a hybrid. It's a legendary creature, Seahawk.
I'm gonna just go ahead and say that this card is really aggressively costed.
Well, has 4 activated abilities that don't do anything.
But the
One of
2
them
mana
is
12/12. Like, I've played Watchwolf before. I played Fleecemane Lion before. I'm gonna go ahead and let you know that, like, taking Fleecemane Lion's ability off, I would totally do that for, you know, the 9/9 boost.
Oh, me too. But this is a legendary creature, so it does have a drawback.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it does have 4 irrelevant abilities.
I'll only play 4 instead of cheating and playing like 13 of them.
Yeah, I mean, the card would obviously be great, but yeah, it can tackle, sack,
So,
block a kick,
also,
or
isn't
to
this
pass as
what
activated abilities.
what more can you ask as Wizards as to like the Seahawks tweeting out an MTG card?
Yeah, I think because he had his Magic collection stolen, and then he and Wizards did some like joint charity stuff.
Yeah.
And they got him some product to help him like rebuild his collection. Pretty cool to see like kind of high profile people playing Magic.
We have thinking of upgrading my old MacBook to the new version to a new Windows laptop to try and play MTGO. Hashtag that'd be good. That's from Brian Kendall 85. First of all, I would never get rid of your MacBook. Now, if you just want to buy a new computer, yeah, I think that. I think that the new Surfaces are actually like legitimately great, and that's as a Mac user. Like, I mean, like, it's basically a Mac. Like, it's just actually great.
Don't be hurtful. No, it's like actually a pretty good computer.